then, so let's get started. Hi,
Okay.
everyone. We are here again to discuss another film noir called Kansas City Confidential. And what an interesting film this is, right, F.R.?
It has some interesting points, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. When I was watching it this time, I kept having to stop it at points and go back and make sure that I understood what the hell was going on here.
Yeah.
And it's like, I've seen this before and I know what's going on here, but I
Yes.
just want to see how it's set up. And I thought, wow, this is interesting. Okay, this guy with a mask on, no,
That was cool.
that was interesting. And
Yeah.
well, why don't you do a little summary like you always do?
Should we
One of those
should we
splendid
introduce ourselves
summaries.
first?
Yes. Well, I'm Debbi Mack. I write the Sam McRae and Erica Jensen mystery series, as well as other books. And FR, introduce
I'm
yourself.
F.R. Jameson and I write Screen Simon Noir and amongst other books.
Ah,
And we both
yes,
enjoy noir films.
indeed. They're very
Yeah.
enjoyable in their own
So
twisted way.
so so to give you a little summary of this one, a Mr. Big brings together some hardened criminals. He wears a mask as he does it, so he doesn't know who they are. Well, sorry, they don't know who he is, rather. Um, they come together and they rob a bank. All of them wearing masks. They don't know who each other are. As they rob a bank, there is a flower delivery going on, and they use a flower delivery van to escape. The real delivery man is arrested, and he has a criminal record, so he is the suspect. They eventually have to let him go because he didn't do it, but he loses his job, and he then goes on a kind of quest for vengeance. He tracks down one of the gang in Tijuana, where he learns how the plot was worked. And fortunately for him, the man is shot dead by the police at the airport. So he is able to fly on to a Mexican coastal resort to take his place. The two other members of the gang are there, as is the Mr. Big, who it turns out is a retired policeman. The our hero has arrived at this resort with the retired policeman's daughter, with whom he has a flirtatious relationship. Is then cross and double cross until everyone's dead, apart from our hero and the policeman's daughter, and they all live happily ever after.
Yes, words to that effect.
But
Exactly.
I did, just thinking about doing the summary earlier. Going, the second half of the film, not much happens beyond.
No,
They all kind of hang out, double cross each other.
they all hang out, double cross each other, break into each other's rooms, spy on each other,
Yeah,
look at each other, look.
I mean
I
it's
kept wondering, how are they going to do this getting together thing when they've never allegedly seen each other,
yeah.
How's Mr. Big going to pull off this whole, and it's like, oh, okay, wait a minute here, what's going on? How is this supposed to really work? There's a kind of a Rube Goldberg aspect to this where there's a missing link somewhere. They all
Yes.
just happen to meet up there at that point, It's like, oh,
Yeah.
I was going fishing. We noticed you go fishing. Yeah, we're out to go fishing.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, okay, you want to get in? Yeah,
They've
yeah,
all been
sure, I'll
invited
come
there.
along.
Yeah, they've all been invited there, haven't they? So they're all at the resort together, but then they are the only three stroke four Americans in the resort. So it's not hard for them to surely spot who each other is.
Yes, he must have chosen the most remote of areas to go
Yeah.
vacation. This guy, he says that he used to like to come there all the time. Maybe he did,
Yeah.
maybe he didn't. I don't know, but he certainly chose the most remote, apparently, of resorts, so to speak.
Well, you say that, but it's got a pool, it's got restaurants, it's got
Right?
some bars. It's not.
If they're the only
It's not
Americans there, that's remote.
yeah. Yeah. It's not so cut off
It's
from the
not Club
world that doesn't have
Med.
amenities.
So it makes sense actually that he would want to do that because he wouldn't want to go to
Yeah.
a place where he might be seen.
Yeah. As I watched it twice, the bit I had to go back and check, because like you, I had to go through bits again, see if I'm
Hmm.
missing, is John Payne, who is the hero, and he's your decent sort of guy, but he's had a bit of a dodgy past for whatever reason. Um, but for the first half, because I'm the guy who's been set up. I'm the patsy who had to take the fall, and it's kind of like watching it going, have they deliberately done this to him? And they haven't, have they?
I
It's just
wondered
kind of
about that.
chance.
That's another reason I went back and looked. I was like,
Yeah,
okay, how much is this is actually planned? Was he across that street all that time thinking about it? The fact that this
yeah.
guy delivered flowers and, you know,
Look, at the beginning, when the Mr. Big is noting down on the piece of paper, and he does say delivery truck arrives at 9:59, leaves at 10:01, armored truck arrives at 10, so, and they use the flower van. You don't think he knows who the driver is.
right. I don't think he cares who the driver is. It's just the
He doesn't
truck.
care. Yeah.
Right.
There is almost a kind of, yeah, Coen Brothers-esque quality to our hero is a man who swears vengeance and actually causes everyone to die. And it's just pure chance he's there.
Yeah. There is something you're right. That's interesting. I
Yeah,
never thought about it that way.
yeah,
It's so happenstance, it's like he gets by sheer circumstance caught up in this thing that he thinks is a frame of him
yeah,
when it's just bad luck.
yeah. But for the first half of the film, he is talking as if it's a frame of him. And I wonder if there is just some kind of script rewrite that happened midway through where they kind
That's
of
a very good
simplified it.
question.
But it does suddenly seem, because that's why I have to go back and look. Have we got to the bit where the police chief says, "Oh yes, well, I know, I remember arresting you," or sort of thing? But no, there doesn't seem to be any acknowledgement. But nor
Well,
nor is there any
there,
kind of acknowledgement for the police chief of just saying to him, because when he takes Harris, the guy who dies the airport's identity, and yes, the police chief recognizes it's not Harris, but he never says, "Who are you? Why are you doing this?"
yeah. Yeah, it's a very interesting film.
It's a one of the interesting things about it is there are a lot. You go into the sort of the swamps of noir. From like in the 50s in particular, there are a lot of films that take American city names. So this is just one of them. So from the same sort of 5 year period, we have the Miami Story, Chicago Syndicate, Inside Detroit, Miami Expose, the Tijuana Story, which I know is technically in Mexico, the Case Against Brooklyn, the Houston Story, New Orleans Uncensored, New York Confidential, Hollywood Story, the Las Vegas Story, Las Vegas Shakedown, the Phoenix City Story, Chicago Confidential, Portland Expose, Hell on Frisco Bay. And it's this is kind of one of the things watching it the second time, I go, what's the sense of Kansas City do I get from this film? And the answer is virtually nothing.
Virtually nothing. Yeah. I, the only reason I can imagine that they used Kansas City at all is that it's so unspectacular.
Yeah,
I mean, in terms of, not to cast aspersions on Kansas City, but I mean,
yeah,
I'm just saying that you don't see it depicted a lot in Hollywood, period.
yeah,
It's more real in a sense, real, more like the
yeah.
real America, maybe. And so I think there was this sense of, there's also almost a documentary feel to the beginning, the way they have that information scrolling, which
Yeah. A lot of them
is
do that. I've seen Chicago Syndicate as well, and
right.
I think that has your kind of dragnet-esque voiceover.
Right. There was even Dragnet-esque music, as I recall,
Yeah,
at the
yeah,
beginning. And it really, I think it was supposed to emphasize kind of the grittiness, the
yeah.
reality, the realness of it, that this could be, you in middle America type thing. I
But
don't know. But it
as
just
far as I
felt
could see, though, it doesn't seem to have been shot anywhere near in Kansas City at any point, according to IMDb. Anyway,
there's
looking at
nothing
the
that
locations.
distinguishes it as Kansas City particularly. No.
If I'd
It's
gone to
just a
see this in
name. I
Kansas
think it's
City in
just
the
to,
50s,
yeah, I think it's just to emphasize its grittiness as
yeah,
a picture about urban life, even though it doesn't take place half the time in an urban setting.
no, no. After the first 20 minutes, yeah, we're in Mexico.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
So,
Not only is the film not shot in Kansas City, after 20 minutes, it's not even set there anymore.
that's That's an irony. For
Yes.
sure. I mean, yeah, that's almost like the title is as much of a lie as the stuff that they tell you at the beginning. I mean, I figured
Yeah.
I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, nowhere does that say it's really a true story, yet they're trying to sort of imply that it is.
Yeah.
It's really
Yes.
interesting.
There's one of the titles there was Portland Expose, and I've never been to Portland, but I kind of has the kind of
Which
hipster
is it Portland,
reputation.
Oregon or Portland, Maine?
Well, yeah, I don't know which one it is. I'll have to watch it to find out.
There are two of them, at least.
Yeah,
For all I know, there might be more.
yeah.
Um,
Have you ever seen Girls Five Ever on Netflix?
what is it?
It's a Girls Five Ever. It's a comedy
Oh, Girls
program by
Five
them.
Eva. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. There's the joke in there about they write a song about the biggest city in America that doesn't yet have a song about it, and they write a song about Fort Worth. And I kind of look at this list of films and go, did they just go through a long list and go, that will do? Obviously,
That's a good
Miami, Las
question.
Vegas,
Wow, that is a
Chicago, they're
really
very
good.
scenery places. They need more than one.
Oh yeah. Just pick any city. Maybe they just went
Yeah,
boom, like that. Ever
yeah,
see Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid?
yes, yeah.
Oh God, I always that reminds me of the end where he sets off some sort of cheese bomb or something, and then what was it? Someplace in Indiana,
Yeah.
uh, some city in Indiana that I can't recall now. They were just about to get a public library. He destroys it. I can't remember which city it was now. I feel
Yeah.
bad. Oh, but that's a great movie. I love that movie.
I haven't seen it in
Anyway,
many years, but yes.
yeah, it's just so
It's,
good.
I mean, the thing with this, I said about the plot, I did find it far more interesting in the first half,
Hmm.
where, you have a greater sense that you kind of loses something when you get to Mexico, when you properly get to the coastal resort. Part of that is you know who everyone is. And the way it's set up, I mean, you always get the impression that the police chief is very genial and you shouldn't know he is the bad guy.
Hmm.
But the way the film is set up, he's the first face you see, and you do know he's the bad guy. I always wondered it would work better if that was the twist. And obviously, you'd have to throw in a few more characters, or it would be the two bad guys, our hero, and this fourth bloke, who is obviously going to be Mr. Big.
Yeah,
But yeah, but
yeah,
it does feel like that second half. You almost need, he's an ex-copper. He's sniffing around. You have to keep everything away from him. I know his daughter knows a bit about this now. We have to try and keep her on side as well because he's a copper, but he's the bad guy all along. As it is, that second half, you know who everybody is,
yeah, yeah,
and it just becomes kind of slightly comical as they stop double crossing each other the whole time. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it's funny. It might have worked a lot better as a movie if they had just not shown him at the beginning watching like that. If you don't
yes,
see his face, if you just see,
yeah,
say, a body even, and the writing
yeah,
of the note, I thought the writing of the notes was a really good way of telling you what was going on without telling
yes,
you.
yes,
And so if he kept that mask on the whole time, it would have been a little bit more suspenseful as far
yes,
as all of it.
yeah.
But that part made me think of Thomas Crown Affair too, the way Thomas
Which
Crown
one?
would gather people. I think he did it in both of them. He would gather people, he would not show his face, but he would say, I
Well,
need you to
yeah,
do
maybe.
this, this, and this, and then you'll get this, reward.
Yeah,
Yeah. I think they
yeah.
did
So
it
it's
in
got
both.
stuff. It's actually got sort of Lee Van Cleef who has a great face, and
Oh God, yes.
yeah, Jack Elam who has a great face, and he's a very good. I also had a kind of Elijah Cook Jr. I look incredibly nervous and frightened of what's happening in front of me. Yeah, I did this Powell said about Elijah Cook Jr. that his face is an open invitation to destroy him. And the kind of the nervousness Jack Elam has is a certain kind of that.
Those eyes. It's those
Yeah,
eyes.
yeah, that he's a shaky, he's got this a 5 o'clock shadow and looks like a man who's basically going to crash at any point. There's no good ending for him.
Well, I'm a huge fan of Lee Van Cleef. That's all I can
Yes,
say. Ever since I
yes,
saw him in the spaghetti westerns, I've just like
yes,
adored him. I mean, he was just,
yeah.
his face is so expressive. And this
Hmm.
is the first time I've ever seen him, I think, play a romantic role. with a woman. I
Yeah,
mean, in the spaghetti Western movies, he's slapping them around for information. He doesn't want
yes,
sex with any of them. He doesn't care about
yeah,
any of them. He wants money.
yeah.
And let's see. Oh, and just there was a shot at one point of the two of them, Lee Van Cleef and the other guy whose name is I can't remember, the other bad
The other one
guy.
at the resort.
Yeah, I can't think of his
He
name.
is Neville Brand.
Yes, he plays a lot. He plays a lot of bad guys in these movies. He's
Yeah,
he's always the screw loose type guy, you know?
yeah,
Anyway, the two of them were like in the two shot. And I was like, wow, that reminds me of High Noon, the way they did it in High Noon.
yeah,
So
yeah,
immediately, I'm thinking of High Noon, looking at Lee Van Cleef because he was in that too. So anyway, I just
yeah.
thought it was an interesting way to shoot those two together, as apart from John Payne, who it's interesting. I was watching him when I first saw him in this. The only other thing I'd ever seen him in was Miracle on 34th Street. So it was like such a change to see him play a
Yes.
guy who had something of a rough past, who was being set up, who was willing to punch the hell out of people to get the truth, that kind of
Hmm.
thing. Two-fisted guy, whatever they call it.
I
Yeah.
had the same similar sort of thing with Colleen Gray, who is she's like the female character, essentially. She's the police chief's daughter and John Payne's girlfriend, who
Mm.
does have a not very well written and quite hard to play role here for various reasons. But so again, to that, but so I'd watched Stanley Kubrick's The Killing, and then I'd watched the original Nightmare Alley. And I had to look up and I go, oh yeah, she's from The Killing. Yeah, even though she's very good in Nightmare Alley. And looking at her in this, and for some reason I just cannot recognise her when I see her. Looking again, right, she's in Nightmare Alley. I keep seeing this woman and having to look her up and go, oh yes. But anyway,
I liked the character she played. I just thought that was really cool that she was a law student at
yeah,
in that day and age, and she was like, "You have something against the higher education of women?"
yeah. I
Not a
liked the
femme
idea of the
fatale.
character. Yeah, that
Yeah.
stuff to kind of, yes, do you have anything against, women being educated, all that stuff. But then the finding, they go swimming together and he goes back to his room to get cigarettes, but drops his gun at her feet.
How
So
does that
he finds the gun and decides to take the gun to him. And when she gets there, she covers him in a tussle with the other two. And it's kind of like, then agrees to go on a date with him that evening. And
I
it's
know.
kind of like this.
Talk about the strangest of meet cutes. Yeah.
I know it,
Um,
and even at the end, where the insurance man said, "Well, if it hadn't been for John Payne, we wouldn't have got anywhere." And yes, her dad's dead now, but his last breath is, "I'd want you to marry John Payne because he'll have the reward." I was just thinking, how would you play this scene? Your dad has died earlier today. He's been exposed as a criminal. Apparently, his last breath is for you to marry this man you met 3 days earlier. And he's going to go along with, I'm really happy about this in turn of events.
yeah, it does seem the whole thing seems wildly improbable.
Yes. Yeah,
But
so for
it's fun.
yeah.
Still
She does the
fun.
best that she can, but it's almost impossible to play. It's kind
Yeah,
of,
I
can you
know.
play this like a real person? No. No real person would
You
ever
can't
be.
possibly. I'm simply a character who needs to do this for these things to happen.
Yes, yes, yes.
I wonder how the writer
Because
felt
even,
about the whole thing. I
the
wonder what
man I
kind of
first,
notes he was getting and going, what am I supposed to do?
yes.
Ah, the frustrations of being a screenwriter. Oof.
I, yeah,
Oof.
it doesn't have the feeling of having been rewritten on the hoof. Or,
Well, we gotta wrap this up somehow.
yes, yes. And there's a possible. I mean, there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. If you see sort of Italian giallos of the 1970s, they frequently don't make sense, and you just
Oh
go along
yeah.
with the atmosphere and the momentum. And I'm sure we should go right into the vaults of Films Republic Studios churns out in 3 weeks. you are
Hmm.
going to get one to go, hang on a second, what about this? That doesn't
Yeah,
necessarily mean they're bad. It just means
right.
if you think about them too much, you have a problem.
Well, it's still a fun movie to watch, and I'll watch it for John Payne and Lee Van Cleef alone.
Yes, yes. I watch it for the. I watch it. I mean, the robbery with the masks and then them not knowing each other,
Yeah,
and the fact that the three guys he hires under the mask are all have great faces.
they do. Very
Yeah,
much so. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, yeah.
very
Jackie
memorable.
and Van Cleef both ended up in Sergio Leone films. It was very much a collector of great faces. Um,
Hmm.
and then even probably before John Payne arrives at the resort when they're kind of hanging out slightly menacingly. What is it? A club? A hotel? What
It
is the
looks like a
room they're playing poker?
hotel,
Is it a
I think.
hotel?
I thought it was like a motel,
Yeah.
kind of like a
And
motel with a pool.
there's the senorita selling items for $11.
Yeah, she's the gift shop,
Yeah.
check-in counter gift shop.
Yes. But she's quite. I
Yeah,
mean, she's quite characterful. I mean, she doesn't have. It's not a great
yeah,
role, but
yeah,
yeah, she brings a lot to it.
yeah.
Also, Lee Van Cleef's flirtation until he gets annoyed with everything here costs $11.
Every he gets some of the best lines too. Everything costs $11, and there was a whole bunch of them that were great. I wrote them
Yes.
down. Of course, I can't find them. But there are just some great lines. I should go to IMDb and just look them up and start listing them out.
I
Um,
am on IMDb. Let me sort of wrote. Yes, the what's waiting for you, Harris? The chair, the gas chamber, or just a rope? And it's a well-made film, just with a slow second half
mhm.
and a slow, no, not a slow second half. That's unfair. A slower second half, which that bit needs to be tightened, and it needs to have that extra bit of mystery.
In the form of Who is Mr. Big? That would
Who
have
is Mr.
helped.
Big?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would. Yeah, because as it is, it's
It's
just
it's like a
waiting.
Sergio Leone standoff.
Yes, yeah,
You see
but not
faces,
yeah,
double crosses. It's made more action. There's more action than the Sergio Leone standoff, but the
yes,
psychology is the same. It's like
yes, yeah.
who's gonna blink? Who's gonna do what first? And how does this work?
Yes.
We all have guns. Are we all gonna shoot each other now? And that's
Yeah, they
another
all have
thing.
guns.
He
Yeah.
dropped his gun, but wasn't he wearing a swimsuit? Where the
It
heck
was
did
it
he?
is in his pocket. It's in a pocket of his robe, isn't it?
Oh, is he wearing
So
a robe? Because
he
all
is
I
wearing a
saw were
robe.
his
Yeah.
legs in that swimsuit.
Yeah.
I noticed his legs. So I
he
don't
dropped
know.
the
I'll have to go back and look at it again.
yeah,
See if I
he drops the
missed.
gun. And the
Uh-huh.
woman he'd met a day or two before, who he'd been flirting with, decides the best possible option here is to take the gun back to him and not
Yeah, I
go.
know. So, oh, here, I thought I'd return your gun. But I
Yeah.
love that kind of matter of fact way she does that. It's kind of like, yeah,
Yes.
here's your gun. You can be honest with me, okay? I'm not, wet behind the ears, blah, 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 all that
Yeah.
stuff. Yes.
Yes, I suppose. I mean, I still have problems in whether anybody would actually do that, but it does show
It's,
a great strength of character in that scene that she isn't
yeah,
intimidated
she's
by
not
this
going to
kind
be
of rather,
intimidated by the situation. Yeah.
yeah, a
I
rather
rather like
ugly
that about
scene.
her.
Yeah, yeah.
Nobody in movies is really real when you come right down to it. How many people
No,
do
no,
what people
no.
do in movies? Seriously.
Yes, it's the thing,
So
isn't it? That in movies somebody gets shot and it's like half an hour later everyone's having a cup of coffee and talking and
I
and
know.
not just freaked out for the rest of the year.
And the number of people who can walk away from the most amazingly horrible car crashes always
Yes,
astonishes me. Oh, they managed to crawl out and they walk away. They're stumbling, but they're walking.
yes,
That doesn't always happen. Hardly like ever. Usually there's some kind of injury
yeah.
sometimes. So anyway,
Or there's shock. Even if there's not a physical injury, there is, yeah,
yeah,
shock and mental wounds.
they're shot and they keep moving. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
That reminds me of those movies where, somebody seems to be dead and then they come bursting out of whatever, the jump scare thing with the
yes.
person who's supposed to be dead. He's got a spear in his back, but somehow he keeps walking and somehow keeps
At the end, the
attacking
fatal
you.
attraction.
Yeah, it's just, yeah,
Yeah.
that whole scene there just made me go, oh, please. Already I was
It's in a
rolling
very
my eyes
aside,
throughout the movie. I'm just like, ugh, this movie
yeah,
is just not my thing.
very much a side note, but it depends on the world you're creating. Like in John Carpenter's Halloween, you can do that as it's kind of been set up for the entire length of the
Exactly.
film. That this isn't just a normal human being.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you do it with someone who, until that point, has just been a normal human being, it's just, oh, that seems like.
But
I
Mr.
mean, I don't
Big
think. I
does
think
it. Yeah,
the only bit in this well, until the end, until the Green Grey see the end, is when at the end, well, just before the end, they go into the boat where the money is. And it's all set up because it's an insurance scam essentially. And John Payne gets the better of Lee Van Cleef and Neville Brand, and then goes to the door and locks this door. And it is like the flimsiest door. It takes about 30 seconds to kick off. Well, I'm not even sure I'd have bothered locking this.
yeah, yeah. Um, what else was there about this movie that stood out for me? It does have a slow pace at the end.
Yeah.
It's funny how paranoid everybody is. It's like you see a cop and suddenly John Payne assumes, oh, they're all looking for me, or do they
Oh, yeah.
recognize me? Or and then you have Jack Elam and his buggy eyes and he
Yeah.
reaches in to get something and they just bang, they're just shooting him. It's like,
Yeah. Well, as a kind of contrast to Jack Elan's buggy eyes, you have Lee Van Cleef's incredibly narrow eyes, just
yes,
seeing the world in a suspicious way. You think, oh, yeah,
he's good at that.
everyone's
Yeah.
out to get him. I mean, say about the bit where Jack Elan dies. That is actually a fantastic sequence. I know it doesn't
Yeah.
quite convince them in an airport, but Jack Elan's he just happens to be recognised as a cop killer, and
Yeah.
police gun him down. But it's just like John Payne stood to the side as kind of a witness, not wanting to get involved and not wanting the police to
Exactly.
notice him as anyone in particular.
And there's this one part where somebody, keeps looking back at him. It's like, or it
Yeah,
looks like they're looking back at him, and then
yeah,
somebody walks toward him, but they're going for the
yeah,
phone.
yeah,
That was interesting. Yeah, I like the
yeah.
way they did
There
that.
is certainly in the first half, there are some great moments and set pieces like that. Like when
Mm-hmm.
Jackie and Am and John Payne meet in the casino, and there's kind of like a very sort of menacing encounter between the two of them.
Mm-hmm.
But John Payne's
Yeah.
first thing is to grab his cigarette and light his own cigarette off it.
Right. Yeah. That I
Yeah,
noticed that part. It's like you
yeah,
see that a lot in film noir. Somebody will have somebody light something light something
yeah,
for them, like Match Me, Sydney, in
yes, yeah,
Sweet Smell of Success.
yeah.
The whole idea of somebody else lighting your cigarette is like a power move of some sort.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Because you're kind of like taking from the other person, aren't you?
Hmm.
Yeah. You're you're demonstrating your power.
Exactly.
Yeah.
To have them power your cigarette.
Yes.
Cigarettes in general are interesting little props in these movies. They can mean either power struggle or sex.
Yes. Yes.
Two people lying in bed smoking. Oh, jeez. I'm already thinking of a great parody to write. People chain smoking after sex.
Yes.
That could be funny,
Yeah.
assuming anybody
I think
wants
we'd
to
give
do
kind of a
that.
we give a qualified recommendation to this film, wouldn't we? Of just
Oh,
uh,
yeah. It's
yeah.
um it's one that I think is worth watching. It just for the fun aspects of how this whole thing is supposed to work.
Yes. Yes.
And so you too can pick it apart like we are.
Yeah.
But it's also kind of cool seeing some of these actors. I just like the actors. I thought they really did a
Yes.
good job. All of them did a great job at selling their parts, you know. Yeah,
Yeah.
I really wanted to believe in the characters themselves, you know, as improbable as the situation was.
Hmm. And yeah, yeah. It needs a couple of extra twists thrown in.
That would that would have helped. Yeah,
Yeah. Yes.
definitely.
Well, I think next month we're going to do the big plot.
Yes, the big clock. Yes, that had
Yeah.
Ray Milland in it, didn't it?
Yes. So
Excellent
it's
movie.
the film No Way Out is a remake of, isn't it?
That's correct. Yeah, with Kevin
Yes. So I've
Costner.
seen No Way Out, but I've not seen the big clock. So I'm looking forward to this.
Ah, yeah. Well, I know the book is good, and I saw the movie after I read the book, so it's
Okay.
been a while. So I do remember liking it. It's a very good movie, as I recall.
Excellent. Yeah. I like Charles Lawton and I like Ray Milland. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Ray Milland's good. He turned into such a grouchy old man toward the end of his career, though. He was always playing grouchy old men. Sometimes they were rich men, sometimes they were just grouchy.
Yes. I
Poor Ray Milland,
grew
consigned
up
to
in
a
Wales,
life
and I
of.
think
Did he?
I grew up in Wales, and I think he might be Wales's only Oscar-winning actor. So I'm not entirely sure I can criticize Ray Milland.
You're not allowed. By law, you
Yeah.
cannot criticize Ray Milland.
Yeah.
Well, I
No
will
matter how many men with two heads of frogs he makes.
Wales. I've never been to Wales. I was so close to Wales, but I never got there.
Really, you looked close.
I went to London. This was
Okay. Okay.
like 12 years ago. It was during
Okay.
the Olympics. I remember that.
Yeah.
But
Okay. I mean,
it
that's fairly close.
that's
I
pretty
mean, in a kind
close.
of for an American's idea of distance, that's fairly close. But
Yes.
the 200 miles is a good 3 hours away. So
Oh yeah. I mean, 3 hours
yeah,
for us, that's like nothing. There are people who commute 3 hours. It's
yeah,
insane around here. It really is. This is an insane place sometimes. Um,
yes,
but in any case, it's not all bad.
yeah,
And so next time we shall speak of the big clock. We will discuss the big clock and what we
yes,
love or not about the big clock. Hopefully you'll enjoy
yes.
it. Hopefully I'm remembering it correctly and I enjoyed it too. And so we'll see you then. Be seeing you.
See you then.
Alrighty.